Day 8 of the government shutdown, and both parties remain firm in their positions, at least for now. Joining us to talk more about it is former Senator Democrat Heidi Heitkamp. She is the director of the University of Chicago's Institute of Politics and a CNBC contributor, and former chief of staff in the first Trump administration, Mick Mulvaney. He is the co-chair of Active Strategic Advisors, and welcome to both of you. You two have both lived through government shutdowns in the past. You've seen the pain that it can produce, but you've also seen the politics and how that plays out. And I'm wondering if you can kind of talk us through so the average American understands what's happening right now. Mick, maybe you can put this in a little bit of perspective. Are we in pain points yet, or when are those pain points going to become much more acute? We've seen some things like slowdowns at airports that are going to bother people, maybe some park closings. But when do we really hit points that are going to be like, uh-oh, people are going to sit up and take notice?
Yeah, the pain points I look at, Becky, are actually the pain points that impact Congress. Here's what I mean. There's a little bit of a pain point when you go into shutdown because of all the attention and so forth. But the first 15 days are usually politically pretty free. People technically are working without getting paid, but they weren't going to get paid today anyway. They weren't going to get paid until October 15th. That's the next pay period for federal workers. That's the next pain point. That's why I think this shutdown doesn't last much past the 15th, if at all. I think it probably wraps about the 11th, the 12th, or the 13th. Keep in mind, back in 2019, when we had that 35-day shutdown, the defense appropriation bill, the defense spending bill had been passed, so all the military got paid. It was a very different sort of pain point in Washington when it came to paying federal workers because all the military was getting paid. That's not the case this year. So October 15th, most federal workers won't get paid, and that's when this really becomes real for most people and for politicians.
Hey, Heidi, from your perspective, what's the game plan at this point? How do you get to a point where either the two sides cooperate or both of them are able to say, OK, we won something, or is there a clear loser in this scenario?
If I can just add something to Mick's point, which I totally agree with. When we had the long-term shutdown, we also were facing the cliff, the debt cliff. And so that's not true. They passed a 2-year, I think, extension of the debt limit. And so that pressure is not on this shutdown as it has been in the past. But I think how this ends is probably in a process vote, even though the Democrats have said, we don't trust you. I think that they have been masterful in messaging this the right way. This isn't winners and losers politically. This is about health care. This is about the extensions. And now you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, I've seen what it's going to do in my district. This is devastating. And I think there's a lot of people, a lot of Republicans who are walking around the hall saying, we need to do something about the health care extension. The question is, how much do the Democrats leverage that concern that Republicans have to basically get a real commitment on either voting for or extending the health care subsidies. So this is just, you can look at the leaders, but what you really should be watching is all the people who are walking in the background or meeting in their hideaways, talking about how do we get this resolved and what would you be satisfied with. I think we took a step backwards yesterday because Angus King, who is a ultimately rational, reasonable person, said, I might change my vote to no because you guys aren't coming to the table.
Right. Mick, what is happening behind the scenes? Because I hear Heidi's point about saying there are Republicans who don't want these subsidies to go away, these ACA subsidies to go away. But you've also got Democrats who don't want to be seen in their districts as causing federal employees to not get paid, seeing the military not get paid. I mean, that's a pretty severe pressure point on both sides.
It is. I don't see that Republicans negotiating health care on this issue. The clean CR almost always wins. People say, who wins, who loses a shutdown? The clean CR wins. Back in 2013, the Republicans, including myself, shut down the government over Obamacare. We ultimately then supported a clean CR. In 2019, the White House supported the shutdown because we wanted more money for border security. Ultimately, we supported the clean CR. I think that's where the Democrats will end up here. Now, I think Heidi's right. It's not winners and losers. It's did you use this time to sort of drive your message? I think people believe believe that Republicans cared more about Affordable Care Act because of the shutdown. Same is true with the border security in 2019. And maybe the Democrats are going to win the argument here. They're not going to win the vote. The clean CR is going to win. Democrats are going to support, and the government will open, again, probably by the 15th. You won't know who really wins or loses in a political sense until the next election cycle.
Heidi, how do we think about the threats of permanently laying off many government employees or reinterpreting the law to say that furloughed workers are not entitled to back pay? It seems like talk at this point. Almost everybody involved is kind of trying to turn down the temperature on that. So therefore, it's not really working, perhaps, as intended as leverage.
It's not working because they tried that in the very beginning of this administration with DOGE, and it backfired spectacularly. And so when people say, we're going to do this, you want to say you already tried to do it, and now you're hiring people back. The other thing, and Mick can maybe confirm this, I think President Trump signed a bill. He's now threatening not to pay back wages or the furloughed employees. But I think there is a bill in Congress saying he has to. And so I think some of these threats are idle. They think they're going to put pressure on the Democrats. But the Democrats have been absolutely consistent in their messaging on health care. And I think that that has spooked. And I don't know that you're going to get a clean CR. You're going to get some kind of, I think, agreement for at least a vote on these extensions. And the Democrats are not going to agree to anything short term because that only helps in the midterms and it doesn't solve the problem. You know, what's really sad about this is the cost of healthcare in this country is astronomical and unaffordable. And no one's talking about how we're going to reduce costs. They're just simply saying how we're going to pay for the system that right now is overpriced.
Hey, Mick, we got to run, but what's your interpretation of that 2019 law? Do you think that the president, that the government has to pay its furloughed workers? And by the way, is it a losing point for the administration to kind of push that anyway, to look like the Grinches here?
I mean, we always pay back pay for federal workers during shutdowns. There is a law passed 2019, which Trump did sign, which said you have to pay back pay. I don't know if they think they found a loophole out of that or not. It's leverage that they're trying to put pressure on moderate centrist Democrats. Heidi's right a little bit in that the DOGE didn't really work in terms of pressuring Democrats, but this is different. They're talking about discontinuing entire programs, space, for example. That's done on purpose in order to bring pressure on Mark Kelly, a sort of centrist Democrat from Arizona. So there's a method to the madness here.
Right.
Not going to work.